Welcome, everyone, to our 44th Salon of the Gift Economy Breaking Through series. This salon is entitled The Gift Informs the Words We Speak and a Better World We Seek with Genevieve Vaughan, hosted by the International Feminists for a Gift Economy. I'm Letecia Layson. I'll be your moderator. We don't often allow Jen to have the entire session, but we thought that we could do a special one today. This is such an important topic, the way that we use our words to help inform our vision and inform our work. We will have ample time at the end of Jen's talk for questions and answers. Genevieve Vaughan is an independent researcher who lives part-time in Italy and part-time in Texas. She created the multicultural all-women activist foundation for a compassionate society that ran from 1987 to 2005. She is the founding mother of the Temple of Sekhmet in the Nevada desert that opened up in 1992 and continues through today. She co-created this network, the International Feminists for a Gift Economy, in 2001, and we continue to thrive. Her books are Forgiving, A Feminist Critique of Exchange, Homo Donans, and The Gift in the Heart of Language, The Maternal Source of Meaning. She edited El Dono, The Gift, Women in the Gift Economy, The Maternal Roots of the Gift Economy, and a volume of the Canadian Women's Study Journal dedicated to the maternal gift economy in 2020. Welcome, Genevieve.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Letecia. And thank you, everybody, for coming. I need to tell you that I've had COVID for the last couple of weeks. And so I didn't get to completely do my presentation as I wanted to. I was going to put some images in it, and I don't have any images in this PowerPoint. But I'm going to put some in for the recording afterwards on the website and on YouTube. Anyway, I'm very pleased to be doing this, and I'm asking you for your forgiveness as it is not completely as perfected as I would like it to be. So here's the PowerPoint is beginning. Okay, I wanted to excuse myself as first thing because I'm a Euro-American woman who is trying to understand what's wrong with our society and what we can do about it. And speaking about language in English, I want to say that I only speak two languages well, English and Italian, and I have a limited capacity in French and Spanish. I realize that other languages of other cultures are different in many ways, and that English is the language of commerce and of conquest. Nevertheless, I believe that English, like all languages, is a maternal gift construction, and that revealing gifting in English can provide a viewpoint from which to see it in other languages as well. Okay, we have had a gender-neutral model of the human based on patriarchal values and characteristics. We need a gender-neutral model of the human based on mothering and being mothered. This model would be grounded in those who give birth and have the milk to give to their infants. However, it would be a model shared with all. The priority of material interactions over thought that was expressed in Marx's structure and superstructure metaphor scandalized many thinkers in the so-called West, where material interactions were seen as secondary to thought, and materialism became the enemy of culture, and spirituality. This has had the effect of allowing maternal care to be viewed as something other than material provisioning work, while its psychological effects on children are investigated minutely by therapists. Considering mothering as aneconomic or not economic has hidden its importance as an economic structure with an important superstructure of ideas of its own, though one that is simpler than that of exchange because it is primary, prior to exchange. Some basic tenets of my theory. Unilateral giving and receiving is the basic human economy, and it is the origin of human logic in practice, in language, and in thought. We experience this economy as infants and as the motherers of infants. The practice of this economy forms positive relations between givers and receivers. The value of the giver to the receiver and the receiver to the giver is implied by the unilateral gift, by taking care of the receiver. The receiver is not passive, but must actively receive and use the gift. There is a syllogism of the unilateral gift. If A gives to B and B gives to C, then A gives to C. The unilateral gift logic is fundamental, but because it is made to coexist with one of its variations, the quid pro quo logic of exchange, it is made invisible and discounted, divided, and conquered. This can be seen in our concept of language as exchange, and in the way words about giving are distorted or watered down. Nevertheless, the unilateral gift continues to function, and it permeates our lives in many ways, unrecognized, as for example, in physiological breathing in and out, or eating, drinking, and excreting, or giving and receiving signs and perceptions, and in giving and receiving words and combinations of words. Literally millions, or perhaps even billions of pages have been written in Euro-America and elsewhere in patriarchal capitalist economics, science, philosophy, cultural studies, without ever mentioning the maternal gift economy, which is a universal factor in the early life of every child, because it is necessary for children's survival. The reasons for this blindness are both psychological, bound up with misogyny and gender distress, and economic, in that gifting is exploited in many different concealed ways by the market. I have written about this a lot, but my purpose in this talk is to show that it is happening and what its effects are on the way we think about ourselves, each other, and the world around us. This is important because by restoring the gift economy and its values, we may be able to mitigate the ecological and economic disasters caused by patriarchal capitalism. This is about the conduit metaphor, which was something that would possibly contradict my idea of the gift economy, so I wanted to address it right now. The cognitive linguistics movement began in the early 1980s with the critique of the conduit metaphor by Michael Reddy, who showed that in English there are hundreds of metaphors about communication that use what he thought of as the idea of the conduit. These, like getting one's idea across and conveying one's thoughts or sending a message, were considered erroneous, despite vox populo vox Dei, the voice of the people is the voice of the gods, because language at the time was seen as tool using, and because the transfers seemed to be unlike the real world, where giving something to someone means the giver doesn't have it anymore. In language, of course, there is abundance in the sense that if you give someone a word or words, you do not lose them. and you can always give them again to someone else. This giving in abundance, giving without losing, is the ideal basis of sociality. Satisfying others' communicative needs is always possible, and it does not incur the kinds of debts or sacrifice that scarcity often does. I agree that language is not putting something in a conduit and taking it out, but the deeper metaphor and blueprint I propose is giving and receiving. It is as if there were a barrier against the recognition of the gift in places where it is not named explicitly as such. Words that have a gift basis are washed out, deprived of their original meaning, like attribute or grant, award, offer, confer, present, endow, impart, supply, provide, and nurture. The gift seems to be rootless, but I believe it is itself the root. For example, as a noun, an attribute in English is an aspect of something that appears as gifted. As a verb, to attribute red to ball seems to mean it is given without being given. We say the ball has that color. The gift is watered down and no longer keeps its original interpersonal meaning. The connection with mother-child giving and receiving is invisible, but it continues to exist because this giving-receiving interaction is our deepest human relation from the womb through early childhood, and it continues invisibly beyond into adulthood, informing our words and our understanding. Something there is that does not love a wall, said Robert Frost. I say something there is that does not love a gift, that tries to denature it, abstract it, not recognize its importance. Or on the other hand, to exceptionalize it, over-honor it. Perhaps because exchange stipulates equality, outside quality, a gift which is qualitative is made hard to recognize. My hypothesis is that the interpersonal gift schema can be seen as a basic communicative cognitive linguistic structure, which is projected, modified, and used at different levels and in many different ways. At the linguistic level, verbal products are given and received, passed from one person to another, satisfying communicative needs. The assembly of these verbal products into broader units by giving the words to each other in syntax provides a way of constructing linguistic gifts, which are understandable by all because everyone who survives childhood has had to experience maternal care and consciously or unconsciously continues to play and project the roles of the gift schema and its variations from childhood on. The displacement of gifting by exchange and of the maternal model by the patriarchal model has hidden the true nature of language as a gift construction, even though we use it every day, and it continues to bring us towards sociality from within. Instead, grammar and the language capacity are seen as genetic inheritance, and gifting seems to have nothing to do with it. Epigenetics. However, recent scientific investigation of early childhood has identified the important period of epigenesis, in which neurons connections are activated by the kinds of experience the child has. The neurons that are not activated die off. Thus, there is a kind of sculpting of the child's genetic inheritance by her early experience. If the child survives, this experience is necessarily deeply influenced by unilateral need-satisfying giving and receiving. I believe that this repeated nurturing interaction lays down the basic human operating system. That is, what we think of as a genetic inheritance is actually the gift of the gift experience that keeps the child alive. And this is provided by the experience of mothering being mothered. considering the capacities deriving from gifting as genetic, attributes to physiology the effect of what is actually a complex human practice. The work of mothering thus seems to be instinctual and pertinent only to women, while the work of males is made something else and superior through the division of labor. The child receives not only the gifts that are necessary for her survival and thrival, but also the model of the other as unilateral giver. Through positive sociality, kinetic imitation, and mirror neurons, the child receives the knowledge of what it is for the other to give, as well as what it is for the other to receive. And the mother has a similar experience regarding the child. The experience of the model of unilateral giving would thus be common to all children who survive, and it is replayed in whoever performs the mothering of infants in later life. It is a common basic interpersonal structure available to all and useful in many different ways with many variations on the theme. Patriarchy and the market economy together eliminate a viable, general and inclusive, or even gender neutral model of the mother from the culture. We need to put this model back in the economy, in academia, in economics, linguistics, and philosophy in order to redefine our species as Homo donans. We also need to use it to make the connection of the maternal with epistemes of indigenous gift giving and claim for mothering the various experimental gift economies that are now being tried on the internet and in alternative communities. Mother Earth. In fact, it is the loss of the maternal root of the gift economy that disempowers it and disempowers female mothering. The female exemplar of the mother needs to be followed by both women and men in continuity with their early childhoods. This can be achieved through the concept of gifting Mother Earth as the overarching concept for social reference. In fact, it is the introduction of market exchange and money that interrupts and subjugates the maternal gift economy. Before that interruption, historically and in the life of the individual, there is a gifting continuity between humans and our environmental niches. Exchange, the market, and capitalism contradict and deny gifting while being nurtured by it. In fact, our economy is one of parasite and host, where the market is parasitic on the gifts of the many. In order to maintain this relation, there is a camouflage of what the market is doing. This is aided by the misnaming of many aspects of life as exchanges. For example, we talk about exchanges between mothers and children when they are actually turn-taking and gifting proto-conversations. Conversational exchanges, exchanges of opinions, of smiles, etc., misname the gifting interactions, causing a neutrality and a distance between the participants. Gifting creates relations of mutuality and trust, while quid pro quo exchange alienates us from each other and makes us adversarial. If we do not underline the difference linguistically, we lose clarity about what is happening. This contributes to the camouflage of the market as normal and essential source of life and community, while the actual source in gifting is made invisible. For example, looking at language, I think of the word attribute. We can see it in grammar, where we say we attribute red to ball, to talk about a red ball. If we recognize the gift origin of attribute, we can already see that this is an instance of giving, and our grammar references the maternal gift economy. Instead, if we do not follow the gift meaning, the relation between the words seems mysterious or due to some rules of grammar that the speaker has to follow in order to be understood by the listener, who also uses those rules. Computers follow the rules of grammar, while humans reference, elaborate upon, and reenact the maternal gift economy without realizing it. Lack of recognition of the gift structures in language also contributes to keeping us from recognizing them in other aspects of life. One of these is the capitalist economy, where the motivator of the whole system, profit, is, according to Marx, the product of surplus value, the value of the work above and beyond what is paid for in the salary. This surplus value can be seen as a gift that is free to the capitalist, though extracted by invisible market processes and sleight of hand from the worker who receives the going wage, while the value of the product paid for by the consumer is more and is free to the capitalist. In the same vein, but even more hidden, are the gifts of social reproduction, the gifts of infant and child care, care of the home, the domestic sphere, that are done mostly by women. This free work feeds into the well-being and labor capacity of the workers, even when the workers are the women themselves, reducing the cost of labor to the capitalist, that is, giving the capitalist a larger invisible gift. Now, I see I didn't cancel this gift value that I wrote here, so I'll just explain that really quickly. It's when the mother gives to the child, she gives value to the child. And that is like the child has intrinsic value because she's giving to her. Otherwise, she wouldn't have, if the mother did not value the child, she wouldn't be giving it to her. And I think that extends also even when this extra gift gets given to the capitalists, so that we, as people, as workers and women and so on, are actually giving to the capitalists by providing profit for them. Next. By looking at the situation from the point of view of the gift economy rather than the market, we can see that many gifts also are received free from nature. Free air, free water sometimes, free warmth of the sun. These are the gifts of our ecological niche, which are both naturally and socially constructed. For example, think of water wheels, ancient water wheels, by previous generations in correspondence with human needs. The gifting of nature is consonant with the maternal gift paradigm. However, when the maternal paradigm is lost through the imposition of the exchange paradigm by the market, this connection is lost and nature seems inanimate, deprived of agency, while humans are active but disconnected from nature and from each other by ego-oriented and adversarial exchange. Portions of our ecological niches can be seized and privatized so that they provide gifts only to their owners. Not only is private property the capturing of the gifts of nature for the proprietors, but the possession of wives and slaves throughout history has directed the gift of the possessed people to the owners, so-called owners. The control over the lives and gift capacities of others is actually the control over the maternal gift economy, directing unilateral gifts to the owner, dominator, or implementer of capitalist market. The implication of this domination or possession is that the dominator or possessor has more intrinsic value than others because she or he receives more free gifts. In the same way, the chosen or preferred baby receives a greater implication of intrinsic value than her siblings. So I don't think people realize this, but I believe this is an implication that happens sort of under our view. What is the psychological effect on capitalists of receiving these many gifts? That is, why do they do it? The ego orientation of the market and exchange does not allow many completely free gifts, but everyone longs for them, for love. In early childhood, when the mother gives to the child, she gives value to her. She attributes intrinsic value to the child. Otherwise, she would not have given. This registers in the child as self-esteem. If there is more than one child, the child who receives more gifts seems to have more intrinsic value. The self-made man, the captain of industry, appears to have been the source of his own intrinsic value, demonstrated by his own ability to make profit on a large scale, giving people jobs and drawing to himself the maternal gifts of the many. He is also chosen over his competitors by Lady Luck, implying his intrinsic value on a grand scale, and he can signal this by displaying costly possessions. Now that corporations are legally considered people in the USA, they too can be thought of to have intrinsic value. Owning their stock also makes their stockholders collectively valuable and lucky. By revealing and tracing the gifts that are given upwards to capitalists and corporations, away from the needs of the many, the maternal economy of free gifting practiced by women and men can be restored to view as the host from which the parasitic exchange economy is deriving its nourishment, its power, and its ability to maintain and hide the parasitic relation. The denigration of women, of poor people, of oppressed groups, and of anyone who is not making profit, that is, receiving unacknowledged gifts from others and from nature, allows us to continue to understand the market, money, and capitalism as a relatively benign system, at least for the lucky ones, the people in power and those who live in the lucky developed countries that with various seemingly benign strategies are able to direct the flow of international gifts towards themselves. This situation of exploitation has been rightly denounced by many anti-capitalist critics, but because they lack the language of the gift, the fundamental connection between originally positive gifting and its distortion by exchange is unseen. The waters are further confounded by questions of gifting and gender and patriarchal domination. There is a kind of taboo or shame regarding early childhood that has kept the unilateral gift outside of philosophy or relegated it to special moral and spiritual areas of discourse with their own explanations and judgments. Unilateral gifting appears exceptional when in fact it is universal because necessary for the survival of children. There's a book called Costly and Cute, which is about, it was by this woman named Wenda Trevathan, and it's a collection of essays, and it's about the evolution of humans due to the fact that children were cute, even though it was so hard to take care of them. And so people got together to socially to take care of the children. The situation has changed in recent decades because the new studies of infancy and epigenetic research have allowed early childhood to take center stage and mothering alongside it. Although the mother-child dyad is constantly referenced, the unilateral gift character is not in focus, nor is the maternal care work considered an economy, but only an externality to the market economy. As most of you know, my focus is on the unilateral maternal economy as a human universal, and I have been attempting to show that it remains fundamental in all realms throughout life, although it is hidden, misrepresented, and exploited by so-called Western civilization and the patriarchal capitalist market. My belief in the widespread existence of the maternal gift economy as the host of parasitic patriarchal capitalism at the same time that is also the basic operating system of our humanity allows me to look through the surface of daily life and of the language we use to communicate about it. This is where I find the taboo at work, because with the hypothesis that giving and receiving are the maternal blueprint for communication and language, I recognize that they are the content of many expressions, but they are altered and attenuated by neutralized or non-gift frameworks in which they are not recognized. For example, sending and receiving, which is sometimes called the postal metaphor, is pretty clearly a derivative of giving and receiving, but sending displaces gifting and makes it irrelevant to the interaction in question. My contention is that the interpersonal relational framework that is established in the maternal gift economy of early childhood continues as the underlying structure of sending and receiving and of many other important interactive relations that seem sui generis. Language itself will often give us clues. For example, there's data transmission and retrieval. Data is derived from Latin datum, which means something given. So the transmission of data is the sending, giving at a distance of something given. The retrieval of data is the active reception of something given. Supply and demand. I translate supply into potential need-satisfying gifts and demand into the needs they can satisfy if the demand is effective. That is, if the people with the needs have the money to buy the products and use them to satisfy the needs. So supply and demand as the principle of the market really has a root in giving and receiving. Then there is, for example, output and input. Output is the externalization of production independently of whether the product is gifted or sold. Input is the giving of a product or a gift, a datum, to some pre-existing area in which it is believed to be relevant. Both are from the giving point of view. Unrecognized gifts. For example, the phrase unequal exchange. The illusion that work ever receives an equal exchange is one of the foundations of capitalism. But X commodity A equals Y commodity B, or Z amount of money, depends upon a fluctuating totality of exchanges, all of which depend on each other, and all of which are subject to the law of give less, get more. The going wage is not an equal exchange, but only what is common in the market at the time. Unacknowledged gifts of time, expertise, energy, and life force, as well as the gifts of maternal nurturance from early childhood onwards that contribute to the life force of the worker, form the unseen ground upon which the paid work takes place. Another phrase, unwaged work. Unwaged work is gift work in the household because it is given free to the children and other family members. It passes through them to the capitalist as a gift that makes up part of the unacknowledged gift called profit that eventually accumulates as capital. That is, it allows them in the market to work for less than they would have to get if they were going to be supplying all of their own nurturance. Exploitation. This term usually means the forcing through trickery or directly of large amounts of gift work and materials, with payments of a low wage, if any. Some examples of recent critiques of capitalism without the idea of the maternal gift. Jason Moore, for example, these are like famous Marxist theorists. He talks about the four cheaps: labor, power, food, energy, and raw material. Then there is also John Bellamy Foster, talks about Marx's metabolic rift between man and nature. And then there is Alf Hornborg, asymmetric global transfers of resources and profit. And he talks about this in thermodynamic terms. Flows of negentropy or exergy from developing to developed countries. These flows are accompanied by an increase of entropy in the countries of origin. I find these theorists very interesting and really right on, but they don't have the idea of gifting. So Moore's cheaps, cheap is a large portion of the value of the product is gifted by someone's or through something. Foster's talk about metabolic rift that Marx talked about is the disturbance of the gift cycles of nature. And Hornborg, who talks about thermodynamics, does not realize that negentropy in society, that is positive and positive contradiction of entropy, which is the movement towards disorganization and stasis. Negentropy in society is largely provided by human gifting. Marx's critique of capitalism without the idea of the maternal gift. Marx says the equation of value X commodity A equals Y commodity B, or X commodity A equals Z amount of money, shows a certain amount of product in exchange in relation to another product or to a price in money. In this view, the product has a use value, what anyone can use it for, and an exchange value, the relation it has as a value to all the other products on the market. But the equation of exchange value is incomplete. While this equation of value is practiced every day, thousands or millions of times, and it is a key element in our daily lives in patriarchal capitalism, it is incomplete because it leaves aside the human relational gifting in which it is embedded and which it actively cancels. The maternal gift gives value to the individual child who receives it, while the commodity in exchange receives an evaluation through its relation to all the other commodities on the market, as expressed in an amount of money, its price. This necessary passage through ego-oriented exchange sets up relations among humans that are in contrast to the gift relations, even though they may be necessary for the production of new unilateral gifts and new workers. Leaving out the context of maternal gifting and of the gifting of nature and culture, our ecological and cultural niches, distorts the analysis. We leave unnamed the human life-giving force, our negentropic, human community-oriented positive capacity of giving that we are practicing all the time, except when we are engaging in exchange and its plethora of gift-exploiting cognates. And I just have to mention here also that patriarchy also imitates gift patterns with the patterns of violence, hitting, giving blows, and it also protects the gift-exploiting system. However, I've written about this elsewhere and I don't have time to discuss it now. The tangled web of gift and exchange that is now tending more and more towards exchange, towards the values and relations of the parasite rather than the host, is not understandable if we do not see the host. In fact, we overvalue exchange, seeing it as our main human relation and basic logic. It is what we cling to as the environment terminally degrades, while immigrants drowned or are murdered, and crazed individuals shoot children in schools, while at the same time, over-gifted capitalist cultural heroes play at sending rockets to the moon. We need to begin to recognize gifting where it exists and to normalize and name it, making it a fundamental part of our analyses. To do this, we need to turn over the social economic fabric and see the thread of the maternal gift that constitutes its basic weave. Language is our shared and shareable, givable gift, given to us by our motherers. But because of the abstraction of the exchange economy, academia has not seen it that way. Restoring the gift thread to our concept of society is within the power of each one of us as motherers, as mothered children, and as speakers and listeners, as writers and readers. This restoration of the gift can be an important factor in changing our individual and collective values towards life-giving rather than destruction. And it can be done non-violently through a paradigm shift that lets us recognize the truth. So the gift process is made invisible in many words that have gifting as their source, but are neutralized. So they seem something sui generis, as I said, and we rarely go back to the gift origin. I've listed a few words, and just to give you all a sense of a number of words about giving and receiving. And if you would like to enter some other gift words or questions about words or whatever you'd like to in the chat, I'd be very happy to look at those. So these are words that we usually think of as not having a root in giving, that because they seem to be independent, like convey or consign. You can hear the gift kind of in the background, but you don't really think about it because it's something specific in the present. So entrust, leave to, that's the heredity, bequeath. The use of the word heredity for genetic heredity is so kind of almost amusing to me, because there is this human bequeathment in giving to one's children. So it's a metaphor, but we don't really look at it that way. Okay, input, output, pass forward, vest, invest, seed, pass along, transmit, communicate, deliver, impart, relocate. You can all read all of these yourselves. I mean, you don't really need me to do that, but it's just, there are just lots and lots of them. And I would wish that everybody could look at these words when you hear them or encounter them anywhere or think of them, and try to think that they are indeed rooted in giving and receiving. Let's see the next one. And these are just some others about receiving. Receive, accept, assume, embrace, adopt, welcome, grasp, get, and so forth. And they are not totally symmetrical with the giving ones, but we can usually find a symmetrical expression for giving and receiving. Anyway, I have, with that, I have finished my talk, and I'd be happy to get any questions from anybody that would like to ask them.
Thank you, Jen. That was fabulous. There were so many good nuggets there of this idea of reclaiming the gift at the root of everything that we see, and really endeavor this shift to a paradigm, a gift paradigm. So let's check with Liliana and see, are there any questions, Liliana, or comments that you'd like to put forward right now?
Yes, there's a question from Margaret Lanley, and she asked, how does one get that which they give? And the other question is, how does one determine who to give to? I can read them again, Jen.
Okay.
The first one is, how does one get that which they give? And the other one is, how does one determine who to give to?
Well, in the capitalist world, you get it often through the market, unless you are, a mother that has mother's milk to give to their baby, or unless you live on a farm in the country, or somewhere where there's very abundant nature, you have to go through the market. And there are groups that are trying to live the gift economy, and that there are eco-villages where people are trying to do it. And that means that they can supply at least some of their own needs. But the problem is that our society is based in capitalism and in patriarchy. And so we have to begin to step outside of it as we possibly can in each of our own situations. And you determine who you give to by your personal relations on an individual level. However, I think it's very important to recognize that a lot of what we do is already gift giving. And as I try to tell people, I mean, this session has been on language as giving and receiving. And so when we recognize that we're actually doing giving and receiving through language and communication, then giving and receiving materially has a wider context. And there's a wider context also of even, the signs, the smiles, the various physical actions and interactions. And when we also receive from our environmental niche and our senses, we understand perceiving as receiving, and being perceived as giving perceptions. So creating a wider context for the material giving and receiving allows us, I hope, to move across into a better world where giving and receiving is easier because there's more free abundance for everyone.
Thanks, Jen. Liliana, are there?
Yes. I have a question from Denise Mitten, and she's saying, I am confused about the statement, the taboo of early childhood. Maybe Jen can expand on that during the questions. Thank you. That's what she asked. I can repeat it, Jen.
Well, you don't have to repeat it, but I'm just trying to remember what I said exactly. Anyway, I think there is a taboo on seeing early childhood as formative of who we are. And now we see it as formative in psychological terms, but we don't see it as formative in economic terms. And we don't see it actually as being an economy at all. And so that's what I'm trying to restore. And I think there is really a kind of prejudice or glasses that keep us from recognizing giving and receiving. And the reason for that is that we're living in an economy of exchange. And we don't want to see how many gifts are actually being given to us in profit, and how our big economy is exploiting so many people all over the world, and nature as well. And that's, we don't want to see how we are creating this end of the world scenario that we're in, but we have to see it.
Liliana? Is there
I have a comment from Marta Benavides. She says, saludos, my connection is not so good. I'm glad for this discussion. And she says, words have a defining energy, charged with the energy that it took to create them, to communicate amongst people. We need to be mindful of this, because how we say it is how we see it. How we see it defines how we proceed. That is why it's so concerning that so many indigenous languages are disappearing and the dominant languages take over. And so the majority of the peoples of the world are on the global south, the countries that have been under colonial and neo-colonial practices. Yet it is the colonizer that get to name. Example, they are the developed nations, and the global south nations are those developing nations. Just this example can be very useful to discern the world as it is and the world to come. Marta Benavides.
Yeah, thank you, Marta. Right, in the beginning, I did mention that I know I'm speaking English, and I know I'm using English as my main language I'm talking about. And I know English is the colonizer language, but that is the language that I know. And I think that it is also based on gifting, even though it has been used so much in domination and in commerce. So maybe it is a good place to start, just because it's part of the heart of empire. And so that's what we're trying to change, and which we have to change, because the survival of everybody is now in question. And I certainly agree that having the power of naming other people's cultures is totally unjust, and that it is part of patriarchy and part of the dominance syndrome that we have. I'm basically trying to reclaim for everybody the gift aspects of their own language and my own language, in the sense that we also have to receive the gifts of other people's languages and other people's ideas about their languages. So, yeah. And what we need to do, we're trying to create a sort of a crack in our capitalist mentality. But that's what we need to do. And we can use language for that, and language as gifting and maternal gifting, and giving and receiving as the general human operating system to further that crack.
Thanks, Jen. Susan Kirsch is asking, could you talk about the impact of lies in the exchange of words, both the immediate impact of distortion and the ripple effect?
That's such an important question, and I'm sorry I didn't get to it in the talk. Lies are part of the exchange paradigm. You tell a lie not to further the other person's well-being or knowledge, but to further your own at their expense. And so it's like an exchange where you give in order to get back something and to make a profit. And in our society, our commodity-based society, our capitalist society, lying is really consonant. It's really part of the whole fabric of the exchange economy. And it has become kind of the main way of communicating in this neoliberal world we're in now. And just the whole issue of all of the lies that the politicians are telling and how they cover up everything and how they make the country go to war by promulgating lies about what's going on and calling ourselves, the great saviors. It's such a bunch of BS. And we all need to recognize that. It's really terrible, but it is just right with our capitalist economy, with our economy that's all based on exchange and advertising. Who knows if any advertising is ever true? They just have to make it attractive, and it's lying to you to make you buy something. So it's just part and parcel of the economy. And that too is really, very negative. And we have to find ways of getting through it and speaking the truth. And the people that do speak the truth, although it's hard to tell who is and who isn't doing it, because there's so many lies and stories out there. But the people who do speak the truth are often really penalized. And put in prison and so on. So I think it is a huge issue, and all of us need to consider it on the background of gifting and mothering.
Thanks, Jen.
Okay, I have another question from Judy Aspie. Can Jen speak a little more about the way the maternal gift is scrutinized for the pathological effects? I feel like this bias against motherhood is a factor in the conversations I have with people regarding the maternal gift economy.
Yeah, you can't even say mother without being accused of essentialism in feminist environments. And even though we are doing maternalist feminism, and many other people are, but in the United States and Europe, the academic feminism that has been going on for the last 40, 50 years has eliminated mothering as essentialist. And so it is, in a way, very important to be successful in capitalism, not to be freely nurturing. You got to sell your work capacity and be able to do a job and do it well and make a profit. And so you can't really concentrate on the maternal paradigm, although of course you can do work in various ways anyway, but it is the ideal of capitalism and being a successful capitalist that contradicts the whole issue of the maternal gift economy. And so it is not surprising that people who are have not become critical of patriarchal capitalism, but instead have joined it instead of trying to change it or overturn it, it's not surprising that they have a misunderstanding, let's say, of the maternal gift economy, even if most of those women maintain the maternal values somewhere. And many of them practice it, and many of them try to practice it in corporations. You know, I mean, they do a lot of nurturing of each other and of the and do a world, you know, try to make a better world through their products and that kind of thing, even if it's totally involved in the exchange economy. So I don't know what to say about that, except that we have to stand outside of patriarchal capitalism to critique it. And where we find a place to stand is in the time and the place before children understand the exchange economy and before mothers are forced to be in it. And in that early time of our being here in the present day US, we find a continuity with the indigenous people who never did enter into capitalism of their own and always maintained a relation of gifting and relation with Mother Earth, where Mother Earth is the larger context of the individual gifting. And we have a larger context of international exploitation. We have a national exploitation and class exploitation and race exploitation all around us. So it's harder for us to stand outside and on the platform, let's say, of maternal values. But it's possible because we all have them, because we have all been children.
Thanks, Jen. I think that's so important because we still have indigenous communities. You know, someone in our group had brought up this organization called Survival, which identifies non-contacted indigenous people. So we know that it still exists, and even indigenous people who have been colonized fight every day to hold on to their maternal values, to you know, continue with their own way of gifting and commerce. So we have many allies. And good gifting elements that we can see in everyday life if we choose to look in those directions. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Liliana, is there another question you want to bring forward right now?
Yes, Tracy Gary, she's asking, how can we partner with you to move the material gift economy as a true tool for transformation? I am helping to put on a conference this October, for instance, on solutions. I hope I can get a representative to give the path of the gift economy that must be considered. Could we set a goal of several cities or countries and make more visible those communities using it? Who might use the framework?
Sure, I'm happy to talk about that. I would be happy to do it, and I have been trying to participate in conferences and give talks and write articles and do all of those things. And many of the women that I know and who worked with me also are doing that. And I find that we are a movement. And so I'm hoping that more people will join, and whoever and whoever does conferences will invite us. Because it has been, I mean, I got started doing this maybe 60 years ago, thinking about this. And it's been a long haul, because people didn't even begin to think of capitalism as a problem. At least the people in the capitalist countries were not thinking of it as a problem until around, the year 2000. And when we had in the United States and after and elsewhere, economic crises that showed that capitalism wasn't working, then people began to think of a gift economy and see that it might be a good idea. So in one sense, now the total shakiness of our economy, the way the US is conducting the government spending in wars and hostilities of all kinds, and the way that the rest of the countries, other countries, are doing this BRICS thing, where they're like China, India, and so on, are creating another pole, another economic pole. The U.S. is going to have a lot of problems soon, and so all our so-called sphere of influence. So maybe people will be more open then too to an alternative. And it's really the real problem now is the environment, because we don't know how many years we even have, and we need a real rapid change. We need a rapid change onto these other values that are not capitalist patriarchal values, that are the gift maternal values. And women have always been, the mainstay of civilization and raising the children in all kinds of different terrible conditions. So a huge women's movement to change things with the help of nurturing men is really what we need. And we need it to have the alternative values, the values everybody gets as children from their mothers, and again when they do mothering when they're adults. So we need to restore the visibility of those values. Anyway, I'd be happy to talk to you, Tracy, about participating in one of your meetings. Thank you.
Thanks, Jen. Thanks, Jen.
I have a question.
Yes, I wanted to just say that I shared a quote with Jen, I think it was yesterday, from Mallory Macduff, who said, climate change is the most horrible symptom of an economic symptom. I'm sorry. Climate change is the most horrible symptom of an economic system that has been built for a few to extract every precious value point out of this planet and its people, from our natural resources to the fruits of our human labor. So in response to that, I would have said to her, we need to return to the maternal gift economy. That's the paradigm shift that needs to happen. So one other thing, Tracy, if you would, please, people are asking about who was the person who asked about it and is planning perhaps a conference in October. Would you please just put your contact information in the chat so that people can know how to stay in touch about that with you? And of course, we will also send it out with our information. And with that, Liliana, sorry to interrupt again.
No problem. It's all good. I have two questions from Annie Finch. And she's the first one. Can Jen say more about the attribute of a noun and its relation to the gift? And the second question is, are you saying that the attribute red is a gift to the ball?
Okay, maybe I should answer the second question first. What I'm saying is that we see red as having been given to the ball. That is, we understand our perceptions as also according to the gift paradigm, according to the gift interrelation. And our giving and receiving that we do with our mothers has created this basic, operating system. Sorry, I'm losing my words. Has created this operating system and blueprint. And so when we need to explain to ourselves how something got to something else, we have the possibility of explaining it as it's having been given, because that is the way we see things as happening interpersonally, and use that same blueprint for explaining what goes on in the world. I mean, if you look at language just in English, when you say she has had, or she had been given, or she have is the possession of whatever happened before. She has run. So run has been located in her activity, that is been given into her activity. Maybe I didn't explain that very well, but I think that what we do is actually, we do use giving and receiving as the basis of syntax. And I've written a lot about that. And I think it is the easiest and the best way of explaining syntax, and not generative grammar rules that we've inherited from our prehistory on down. So that the crux of the whole thing is that syntax is based on mothering, giving and receiving. And that's the title of my book, is The Gift in the Heart of Language, the Maternal Source of Meaning. And that is the maternal source of meaning, is being able to give words to each other and then give those given words to other people. And they receive it because it fits into the schema or the blueprint that they have of giving and receiving in their minds as well, because they are mothered children as well. Anyway, and now I answered one of the questions. There was another question. What was the first question she asked?
I think you answered it, but can Jen say more about the attribute of a noun and its relation to the gift?
Well, that is, we say that the ball has an attribute of being bouncy or red or whatever, And that simply isn't an expression of this giving and receiving framework that there is in language, adjectives and nouns. But it's also in other aspects of grammar.
Thank you, Jen.
Yeah.
I have another question from Patricia Hurd. Oh, it's more of a comment. I'm just becoming aware of how tragic it is that the gift of Mother Earth have been mistranslated into resources and then into possessions, forgetting that we all are just guests here for a short while, sharing the gift of life and supporting life for a limited time.
Well, yeah, I agree. It's just, we are originally homo donans. We're gifting beings. We're not exchanging beings. We're not, doing things or we're not originally resource exchangers or creators of products to sell. And we are actually a maternal species. And we have corrupted that. We've changed it, not really because we are bad, but because the exchange itself and money are kind of like a little mechanism in our minds that switch us away from other orientation and switch us towards ego orientation, because it's quid pro quo. We don't do it unless we get something back. And so practicing that all the time alters us away from our original maternal ways, even if whatever we're doing. This was not the case for people in prehistory, and it wasn't the case for indigenous societies. It still isn't in lots of indigenous societies that have been able to not embrace capitalism and have been able to continue with their gifting ways in spite of everything, which is just incredible. And if we want any proof that the gift economy is real and important and fundamental, just look at what they've done to survive with their own culture, which is the true culture, which is the true human culture, is maternal, is gifting. And maternal generalized to everybody. Everybody can give and receive because we all had mothers. And we had to have that done to us in order to survive. So we learned it. And we've dislearned it through exchange and we've made all of our transactions exchange at all different levels, global, international, national, local, in every possible way. Anyway.
Yes, it's so important, Jen. One of my elders, Billawara Lee, Auntie B, she says to call her, is part of the indigenous Aboriginal people from the Darwin tradition. And she says our culture is one of the oldest, if not the oldest, documented culture in human history of 60,000 years. So the maternal gift economy has been around for 60,000 years, and the exchange economy is just a drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
They still exist, they persist, and resistance is not futile, as the Borg would say. Resistance is what we all must do in order to return to the gift. So I want to encourage, Jen always puts us out there as a revolutionary cry, so please, let's all resist.
Let's resist. Thank you. Thank you, Letecia.
Liliana.
Yes, Angela Dolmage is asking, how will you relate the circular economy to the gift economy?
Yeah, well, I think it's it can be easily be part of it. It should be part of it, because that is, we need to be able to reuse what we consume and reproduce. It is an aspect of it, depending on where you are and what part of the economy you're located in. And I think probably as time goes on and people go more towards gift economies, the circular economy will be part of that. So yeah, it's a step along the way.
Yes, so it has gift elements, but the main core principle that it lacks is this notion of putting women and children at the center, managing the resources, and that being our natural frame of work. Right. Thanks, Jen.
Thank you.
Liliana?
Okay, there's a question from Mitchell Cowan-Werter. How would we ensure some kind of fairness or equality in a gift-giving society? What would prevent some from only giving and some from only receiving? As Nancy Fulbright explains, capitalism is founded on the donations of women made invisible by the exchange economy. How would one prevent or control this unilateral exploitation that could result from unilateral giving?
Well, I think that we are living in an exchange economy, and people have those values of the exchange economy, which is invested with patriarchy as well. And so, as I said in my talk, it seems that you have more value if you get more. That is, if more is given to you. And that is a personality trait of people who want to make more money and want to, be the Jeff Bezos or the Elon Musk and the top dog. And they want to do it because it seems that means that they have more value, that they're more important, more blessed by luck and by whoever. And they lack that original feeling of importance or of value that one would get as a little child by being nurtured by their mother or even by the whole community. And so we are actually creating people who are biopathic in a way, who are very ambitious and patriarchally leaning towards dominance and so on, and trying to find a way of having more. And that motivates capitalism. It's good for capitalism. A lot of people are competing to try to get more. But in a gift economy, in a maternal gift economy, already we'd be raising children to feel valued already in the beginning, and through gifting, and not beginning to threaten them with not being able to have a cookie if they don't eat their lunch or whatever it might be. That is sort of like the beginning of exchange thinking, and by not pushing children into the exchange mode, and they don't even really understand it until they're around 3 or 4, and they don't understand money until later than that. But we try to tell them all about it, and we think it's good if they learn exchange really early. And we should, in a gift economy, in a maternal gift economy, not even talk about exchange. It should be outside the purview, as it was in indigenous societies. They had their many ways of doing things. They did reciprocal gifting and unilateral gifting with other tribes and other groups, and all of these things meant something, that were based on meaning rather than on acquisition. So I think that both with the idea that patriarchal capitalism, patriarchal behavior, dominance behavior, acquisitive behavior is psychologically not okay, and also is socially not okay, because we can see that is bringing us to disaster. And even corporations have those values, which is the craziest thing in the world. So I think that with a good deal of common thinking it over and talking about it and discussing it and coming to some widespread consensus in gifting groups, I think it is possible to avoid that kind of greed and dominance behavior that is typical of capitalism.
Thanks, Jen. I wondered if you could just speak a little bit. Margaret Nunley is asking, does the giver have all the agency in this dynamic, in the gifting dynamic?
Well, no, I mean, the receiver can also ask to receive and respond. For example, it's useless to talk if nobody's listening. So the listener has agency and makes the gift complete. And also, the actual gift, if there is not a receiver who can actually use it, it doesn't exist. It's not really a gift. You're just creating waste. So no, I think there is the agency of the receiver is also important. And in a way, it's a gift to the giver that her gift can be completed by the receiver's reception. And receiving is also not passive. It is an activity.
Great, thank you so much. Liliana, I'm going to ask Karina's question that she typed into the chat. This is for you, Jen. The recurrent claim by mainstream is that we can save only the welfare state by increasing and supporting economy. And to do that, we must cut, and take away from kids, elderly, hospitals. So banking the communal cake of economic growth is the only solution to the world's problems. What do you say about that? Call their bluff.
Well, no, I think that we are continually creating scarcity with our economy by siphoning off all of anything possible, any gift possible, into either private wealth or corporate wealth or national wealth. And we are maybe, I don't know, maybe you call it accidentally on purpose. Maybe people don't know they're doing this, but they're actually creating the scarcity. Every war creates enormous scarcity, both in the countries that are making war and in the countries that are being destroyed. And that's going on right now, again and again, just like everywhere. The whole war in Ukraine is just hugely creating scarcity. So I don't know. I mean, usually a welfare state is a good thing, but it's a good thing in a context that's still within the exchange economy.
Mhm.
So I believe that things like basic salary might be very useful in transitioning from an exchange economy to a gift economy. But people have to have the vision of a gift economy, of a maternal vision of a maternal gift economy in order to transition towards it. But if nobody even knows that that would be a good thing, they don't have any motivation to try to transition towards that. And instead, what they do is a little bit of reformism on capitalism. And capitalism is basically not going to work. Has showed itself that it does not work for the good of all, and it works only for the putative good of the very few. So, and it's getting worse, and it's destroying the earth. So we got to do something else.
Thanks, Jen. Liliana?
Yes. Mary Long is asking, how much energy should we devote to reform patriarchy and how much to starting our own worlds?
I love being in the feminist movement. I love being in a movement with women in our own world. But I think that everybody has to recognize the gift economy and the maternal gift economy and the maternal in themselves. Even men have to recognize the maternal in themselves. That is, we need an economy of the values of the maternal that men espouse as well. And men can see what is not working. And they can also, if they look, they can see what damage patriarchy does. And I'm sure that men as well as women, are terrified of what's going to happen to the planet and terrified of nuclear war. We don't want to destroy the planet. We love this beautiful place that we live. And we love each other. And men do too. It's just that we have gotten a totally wrong view of the world, and we validate it every time we go to the store, basically. I don't think we're going to be able to not go to stores for a while, maybe for quite a while. But we have to realize when we go that we're doing something that's hurting us. We're doing something that's switching our minds. And so we have to kind of distance ourselves from that. And look in the other direction, look in the direction of gifting. And notice all the gifts that we're giving each other all the time. And realize every time you breathe, you're receiving the gift of air. That is now being polluted by the exchange economy. What about that gift? I mean, the whole planet is gifting, was. But we've been destroying it in such a way.
Thanks, Jen. I think in this talk, what really jumped out in my mind, this just keeps blinking as I'm listening to the questions and the answers, is in the market, there is no equal exchange. It's always unequal because someone, the capitalist, is making money by doing nothing and the other two, the receiver and the giver, the gifter, are making less. So somehow what we in the market, capitalism, patriarchy, what is talked about as equal is unequal.
I agree.
And that's the unseen element of the gift.
right. And nobody thinks of the unequal part as a gift. They think of it as exploitation. They think of it as paying less. They think of it as profit. They think of it as what the guy was saying, cheap. It's cheap. I got that cheap, you know. And that just meant that somebody gave a gift, more of a gift for you to get that. We need to, it's like optical illusion, you know, where the figure ground. We need to put the gift forward and the exchange in the back so we can see every time where it is. And that way we understand what it means when somebody makes a profit. Somebody makes billions of dollars while most people are having a hard time getting their daily needs met, if at all.
Yes, thank you. Liliana.
Yes. Nancy Simpson is asking, do you think men now want to create children artificially? I worry that this is where we're headed. Men want to control reproduction.
Yeah. I think that, first of all, I think that robots could never bring up children because I don't think they're not made on the basis of giving and receiving. And anyway, I won't go into that very much, but I do believe that. Maybe if the children they did bring up would be crazy, basically. Yeah, let's see if I can actually address that. I think that somehow society itself realizes that what we need is the maternal gift economy, unconsciously. And I think that men realize that too. And that they want to be mothers. But they think of being mothers as physiological and not as doing the maternal economy. And so they do it in a patriarchal way. That means they want to control reproduction. They need to do it in a way where they are part of reproduction, where they're part of the giving of life and the care for life, and not trying to control it. So I think it's just, I don't know what to say. I think I don't know. I don't think I'll go into all of what it might be for men to actually be pregnant, feel, go through having some child implanted somewhere. I don't know what the psychological reason for that is. And I think that in general, it's not a good idea.
Thanks, Jen. Liliana, did you find another question or comment you want to highlight here?
Yeah. Could Jen please expand for a moment on the connection in language between an attribute such as red ball?
Between an attribute and what?
And red ball.
Yeah,
she explains it. She explains a little more. This question seems to have been overlooked. Could Jen please expand on the connection in language between an attribute such as red, in red bold, and the idea of the gift? That was a question more, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And I do have a book on that. So if you want to go and read The Gift in the Heart of Language, I talk about it quite a bit. And I talk about it in almost everything I've written. Yeah, if you can see that our basic perceptive and conceptual setup is based on giving and receiving, then it's easy enough to see that in grammar, in sentence construction, the way things are put together is based on giving and receiving. Even physical construction is based on giving and receiving. You hammer the nail into the wall, that's giving the nail to the wall. You give support to the roof with the other wall. And the same thing happens in grammar. And there are various ways of giving and receiving in grammar, like you can make gender, and we don't have it like that in English, but like in Italian, we have la palla rossa. So you know if it ends in A, the palla is being given, the red is being given to ball, and not to, I don't know, l'albero, which is another, which means tree, and it ends in O. So there are little clues in the sentence of which words are being given to each other. And we talk about that as modifying or actually, I mean, you give the verbs too. I have the boy hit the ball. So the giver is the boy, hit is the gift action, the ball is the receiver. And then you can say the boy hit the ball that rolled into the gutter. So that picks up the activity of giving of the ball, and then rolled is the gift action, and the gutter is where it's the receiver. So I believe that there are lots of ways that giving and receiving are expressed in grammar, and that this giving and receiving is, and receiving and giving again, and receiving something else and giving it to something else, and there's a lot of variations on giving and receiving that we don't really realize, but that are there. I won't try to go into them right now, but I mean, even the dog, the article is given to the noun. Since we have not recognized giving and receiving as anything on its own, anything important or basic, we haven't looked at grammar in that way. And so we haven't seen how important and basic it is. Did I answer the question?
Thanks,
Yes.
Jen. Yes. I think we have time for one more question before we let Jen do some closing statements, and then me just closing us out with some announcements. Liliana, did you see one there that's?
Yeah. There's a question from Angela Dolmetsch, and she says, how would you place GoFunding in the gift economy? The GoFund that they do?
Yeah, well, funding, philanthropy is a kind of gift that wealthy people give to various different kinds of projects. GoFunding is the GoFundMe thing on Facebook or wherever it is a way of asking the public to fund whatever it is, whether it might be some social change project or some new kind of gimmick or a new kind of product. And so if it is the GoFundMe that funds a new kind of product, you're engaging in capitalism. If it's the GoFundMe that is trying to create social change, it is a gift to social change, but that social change depends very much on what it is, what kind of thing you're giving to. Is this going to be some real honest, bona fide helpful project, or is it not? And how much is it in the midst of various kinds of corruption? Anyway, yeah, and the whole issue of philanthropy is really, let's say, dependent on capitalism, because you have to be able to have the money to be able to give it. And not everybody can do that. So it is not a general human capacity. And actual maternal gifting is. But I think, I think it is good in its way, only we have to really always step outside of capitalism and patriarchal capitalism in order to try to work towards deep alternatives, because without that, we don't really have time. We don't have time to do all kinds of explorations, because the environment is not going to manage, not going to make it.
Thanks, Jen. I wondered if you would like to leave us with some closing statements right now about where you are in your thinking about this and what you hope can come out of this discussion. One of the things that you had mentioned was if people would want to send their words, that you would take a look at them, right?
Oh, yeah, I wrote those lists of words, but if you all want to write in words that you think about that express gifting, or words that particularly express exchange, words that are about giving, and words that are about receiving, I'd love to get a collection of all of these words together, so that we can we could post them or discuss them some other time. And I think that would be a lot of fun, and not only just fun, it would be useful. The only thing I have to say is that, we are, here I am looking outside of this beautiful day, beautiful green trees and stuff where I am. And I see it as so much in danger. And I just think of, that we're at the end of the world. And I'm 83. And I always thought that when I died, that the world would continue. And I would know that those trees were there, or that children were playing and being happy, and people were doing all kinds of great stuff. But now that is all in question. So we are in a big, important time. We're very lucky to be in this time, because we can do something, and we need to do it.
That's the rallying cry of Jen around the maternal gift economy, for us to really, in our circles of people and women, wherever our feet take us, and our computers take us into Zoom rooms to engage in the conversation of the maternal gift and a return to a place where the extraction of gifts don't continue to create destruction, that we can return again to a place of, yes, Jen.
I just wanted to say that we also need to do that personally. That is, we need to be able to put on those gift glasses and see the gifting around us, inside of us, and recognize the gift paradigm where it is. Because if we don't do that, we can't really go try to spread the idea. We don't live it. We're not understanding it ourselves. So let's try to do that.
Wonderful. So I would just like to thank you, Jen, for your thoughts today and for really staying in the conversation for 2 hours. So it was amazing and thrilling, really, to hear your thoughts about the maternal gift, so that it stimulates our own thinking about how we can move into a deeper level with the maternal gift economy and bring it into our own hearts, homes, and community. I want to thank Diane for her ever strong support in our tech, and Liliana Wilson for organizing the questions. Also, I want to thank the International Feminists for the Gift Economy, who continue to stimulate the world around you and stimulate us. And I'd like to thank each of you for attending today, for putting this in the forefront of your heart and mind as something valuable and important in the world. We hope to see you for our next salon on May 13th, salon number 45, The Gift of Play, how appropriate for this season. We will have two women who reside in Italy, Mira Patel and Juliet Libby. They're going to be talking about a recent project in the region of Gujarat, India, that they put into place to improve play opportunities and spaces for children in that community and build awareness and encouragement in the importance of play in the wider community. On May 7th, an in-person event is taking place in Syracuse, New York, with women from this network, the International Feminists for a Gift Economy, called A Day of Global Sisterhood, that is Sunday, May 7th, in conjunction or at the close of the Association of the Study of Women and Mythology conference. So we have information on our website if you want to attend. And of course, May 7th is a gift to you. So please come and join us for a day of global sisterhood. We will be having discussions and just want to connect after this COVID lockdown and be together. And we will end in a ritual to bless the earth and our endeavors. We've opened up the registration for two of our upcoming book presentations. The first one in May, May 20th, is Dr. Arella Shamdi. She's going to be speaking about her newly released book, Imagine a Mother World Beyond Patriarchy, Capitalism, and White Supremacy. I'm very excited about that. And then in July, on July 15th, Barbara A. Mann and Karina Kylo will be introducing their newly released book, A Woman Who Married the Bear, Spirituality and the Ancient Foremothers. All three of these women are part of the International Feminists for a Gift Economy network, and we are so pleased that they are allowing us to feature their books in our in this season. If you'd like to be notified and stay on top of the events and salons, please sign up for our mailing list at maternalgifteconomymovement.org. Remember, that's where our recording from today's session will be posted. If you have questions and you specifically want to be in touch with Jen and you don't have her email address handy, you can always send them to us. We welcome your comments and feedback at maternalgifteconomy@gmail.com. So we will see you May 13th back in the Zoom room for our next Salon 45, The Gift of Play. Until then, please stay safe, be well, be kind to one another. Happy Beltane for those of you who celebrate, a happy May Day for those of you who celebrate that. And always, peace to you. Enjoy your weekend. Bye for now.
Bye, everybody. Thank you, Letecia.
Thank you.